it easy to read? Does it need to be enlarged? And does it look okay, Amanda?
I can read it. I'm not sure if everyone else, it is kind of small,
Okay.
but I'm on a small screen. So,
It's
Uh,
good.
it is good. Okay, perfect. So I wanted to go over some things with you. This is a claims requirement sheet. It is specifically just about the documentation that is required when you are submitting ESG CV claims of any kind. I thought this might be somewhat of a help. We've had a lot of claims come in missing documentation. Um, the narratives don't match the actual claim amount that shows on the claim receipt. Um, the the verbiage that's being used for the charges, they're items that can't be used. We need to know that original vendor name, things like that. And I thought that this might be somewhat of a checklist for you when you're going through your claims. Now, as far as what is eligible to be claimed where, you'll want to utilize your ESGCV desk guide for that. This here is specifically about the documentation that you will be submitting within each ESGCV claim. I do hope this helps, but I will go through it. And then if you have any questions, maybe if there's something I've forgotten, or maybe there's a misunderstanding of some of the verbiage in this, I can correct it. And then Amanda's going to send this out to all of you so that you have it. So first off, we want to start with what's required within that claim, your the contents of the claim. There's the claim receipt, which is created at the time of your claim submission. The ESG financial narratives, it's an Excel spreadsheet, which I do believe everyone is familiar with. If you have any questions with that, we can go over that as well. And then also the supporting documentation for each charge. So let's go back up to number two, ESG financial narrative, Excel spreadsheets for each budget category being claimed. Each financial narrative must be completed in its entirety. It needs to have the month that the claim is for. It needs to have the we need to be able to see what um, organization, your award number, that should be listed on there. The claim amount on the financial narrative for each budget category must match identically to the claim amount on the claims receipt for each budget category. So if you're claiming $1,000 under financial assistance, your claims receipt must say $1,000 under financial assistance. It can't be off by pennies. It can't be different. If you've totaled up your claim on a narrative that's different than what you're actually claiming, then it's wrong and it will be denied. It has to be denied so that you can correct it, either the claims receipt or you can correct the narrative. Each charge listed must be titled as the original vendor name. So if you say this is, you title it reimbursement or you put a person's name and it's not payroll, that is not correct. If they spent that money at Speedway gas station, it should say Speedway. And then, of course, you need to provide the invoice for that charge as well. Actual incurred or payment date is required and must match the date shown on the invoice or the check stub. So each charge, there is a column where it asks for the incurred or payment date. That must match what's on the invoice or the check stub. If you're providing an invoice and it does not provide the payment date, you need to write that on there. Paid and the date that it was paid. Excuse me. We match that up with what you put on the narrative. Any charges or internal adjustments not currently being claimed should be eliminated altogether. If you're not claiming it, it should not be listed on that narrative at all. Supporting documentation, copies of vendor invoices, receipts for each charge, mileage reports for each mileage reimbursement charge, payroll, detailed ledger, journal entry descriptions, pay stubs, or timesheets containing the names, wages, and dates for any wages being claimed. So all payroll must have supporting documentation. Eligibility by date of incurred or payment date. So this here we've had lots of questions about, and I'm going to read this out, and I want, if there is any questions, please let us know. All claims and backup documentation shall be submitted to IHCDA for reimbursement of costs paid or incurred, accrued or obligated. The claims must be submitted within month order. Any exception to this will need prior approval from Amanda Fronick via email documentation uploaded to the claim. So if you're not submitting within the time frame that is allotted, you have to get permission from Amanda to do so, and it must be uploaded to the claim before you submit the claim. We have to know that it was okay for you to do that, or it gets denied. The claims and the charges within a claim shall be submitted to IHCDA within 60 calendar days after the last day of the month in which the expenses are paid or incurred. So, for example, the last day a charge paid or incurred in March will be accepted is 60 days after March 31st. Therefore, the claim submitted for the month of May is the last opportunity to claim that charge paid or incurred in March. Any charges outside of that time frame are not eligible, and the claim would need to be denied for correction of the financial narrative and claims receipt. Okay, so do we have any questions on that? Amanda, are you able to see if anyone has any questions?
I don't see anyone's hands up at this time.
Okay. Well, then I guess we can move on. So everyone understands the eligibility, what makes a charge eligible and how long they're eligible for. Then
Oh,
we can
we
move
do
on.
have someone with a question.
Okay.
Let's see. Chase, did you have a question?
Yep. Hey guys, thanks for putting this together. I do have a question about having the spreadsheet match the receipt when you do the final claim of a grant and you want to claim all the grant amount, but you don't want to go over. Is that okay if you have $1,000 that you've spent on like payroll or one big purchase, but you've only got like $800 left to claim? That's okay where you claim less than the receipt amount, correct?
Yes. You just can never claim more than what the invoice shows you paid. You can always claim less. It happens all the time. They may take an invoice and break it up amongst several different awards, but you can never claim more than what it shows you spent. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, we also have a question from Kelly.
Yeah, I was curious, that 60 days, is that 60 days if I make a mistake on my claim and I made that deadline, but having to revise my claim because I've made that mistake pushes me over the 60 days, will I be penalized for that?
No.
Okay.
So every claim that's submitted, the original claim submission date is what we go by. However, if you submit a claim and Megan, who is the reviewer of these claims, she finds an error, and between you and her back and forth, let's say it takes an additional 2 weeks, and that puts you beyond, it does not affect that. You are fine. Because you submitted it within that 60-day time period, it's acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. There's a couple of things that we should probably be mindful of when we're putting our claims together. We don't want delaying anytime there are errors in your claim. That delays your reimbursement, which nobody wants that. It pushes it out. But only provide charges in the financial narratives that you are currently claiming. Only supply the required supporting documentation. All we need is one invoice or one canceled check. We don't need 5 invoices for one charge. It's just not. Sometimes we get so many documents that it it takes longer to review that claim. It can even cause confusion. All financial narratives must be completed with all requested information. All titles for charges listed on the financial narrative must be the original vendor name. The claim amount on the financial narrative for each budget category must match identically to the claim amount on the claims receipt for each budget category. I know that that's a repeated guideline, but we've had problems with this right here, where those dollar amounts just don't match up. Submit all claims before your deadlines. That will prevent any delay as well. Financial narrative requirements.
Hold on just a second, Roxanne. We do have a question in the chat. How long does it take to be approved for ACH transfer once the claim has been approved?
From the time you submit your claim till the time that it's actually sent out by ACH, they try to do that within 30 days. It can, however, depending on how many claims we've had come in, if your claim has been delayed because of errors, if they've been denied, when you resubmitted that claim, things of that matter, that can delay and cause that time frame to be longer. But we do try to do that within 30 days.
I would also like to add that if you do have a claim that's coming up on the 30 days, or please feel free to reach out to us with a question. We want to make sure that nothing got missed, that, I sometimes have had someone who thought their claim was submitted and they had not actually submitted it. So, there are things that happen. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions if you have them.
Any other questions on that part?
We do have another question in the chat. Is there a reason for the delay between accounting review and ACH transfer, or should we wait a full 30 days after accounting review before reaching out? There should not be 30 days between accounting review and ACH transfer. So if you're experiencing that, please definitely reach out to us and let us know before 30 days has gone by. We want to make sure there's not another problem somewhere. Next question, if you are reimbursing someone, for example, an employee for a claim expense, do you list the payee or the vendor?
It's always going to be the original vendor name that should be listed on your narratives. And we're actually getting into that right now. That's actually what we're coming up on.
Sorry, I have another comment in the chat. I think many of us supply too much documentation from fear of missing something.
And that I'm fully aware of that. But just always know that if you supply that original vendor invoice or that canceled check, if Megan needs more than that, she will send you an email telling you. However, if you send 3 to 5 documents for one charge, it's just it can possibly delay your claim because it can take her way longer to review that claim than it should. So there's things to think about there. And an email, sending you an email, do you happen to have the invoice for this charge? That can be an easy fix because she can send that email, you can upload it, and there you go. Whereas adding an additional hour to 2 hours onto reviewing a claim, it can cause confusion, which then could delay the claim until she gets a better understanding of what you're providing. So sometimes too much documentation can just simply be more problematic than anything.
I would highly encourage everyone to refer to the ESG CV desk guide. It does list in there what the required documentation is for each area. That also will help with your monitoring. So making sure you have all that documentation together, and then could help limit that or limit those questions.
Was that all the questions that you had, Amanda?
I think for now.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the financial narrative requirements. Each charge must be listed on the financial narratives by the original vendor name. Charges should never be titled as the following within the financial narrative. So these following items, if your charges are titled as this, it's going to be put on hold until it's corrected. A credit card company or a bank, unless the charge is notated to be a monthly usage charge, then it shouldn't be titled by the original vendor name, not the credit card company or the bank. Reimbursement charges titled as a person's name. If it's not payroll, we should not see a person's name. We should actually be seeing a company or a store's name or whatever that charge was for. Where they spent that money is what should be listed there. If it's simply just titled reimbursement, petty cash, travel, legal, fees, advertisement, or miscellaneous, wrong. It needs to be the vendor name where the money was spent. If we see mileage reimbursement, there must be mileage reports showing that total. We need to see the report and we need to be able to see that the dollar amount reimbursed is exactly the same. Each charge's incurred payment date must be listed on the financial narrative and match identically to the incurred payment date shown on the invoice or cancel check. Does anybody have any questions about the titles of the charges? How they should be listed and what we're looking for? By you providing the actual vendor name to us, it only gives clarity to eligibility. That's what that does. So if you're telling us it's petty cash, well, it's not eligible. So that's why you need to back up and go, okay, we took money out of petty cash and gave to Jane Doe so she could go purchase food for this location. So what we need to do is we need the name of that store where she spent that money. And that will make that charge eligible. If that makes any sense at all, I hope it does. Did anyone have any questions about this right here? Okay, so there is a second part to this page. So it's a two-page document. Payroll documentation, like I said, detailed ledger is acceptable. Journal entry descriptions, pay stubs, or timesheets containing the names, the wages, and dates for any wages being claimed are required for each claim submitted when claiming wages of any kind. So these are the types of documents that you can use to support your payroll documents that you are claiming. The original vendor invoice with payment or incurred date provided or copy of the cancel check is required for each charge. And again, a mileage report showing reimbursement totals is required for all mileage charges. So please understand that if we cannot explain your claim, we can't approve your claim. If there's confusion about what you're trying to claim, then it's not going to make sense. So if you provide $800 in payroll documentation, but you're claiming $1,200, something's missing. Something's missing. And in our eyes, when we look at it, you're claiming more than what your payroll shows you have. Your payroll documentation should always support that dollar amount that you're claiming. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. If you ever have any questions, concerns, or you've made a mistake and you need a claim denied, you need to get a hold of Megan. Megan is the one who reviews all of your claims. And, you can email her. That's the best way to do it. You can also email the claims inbox. We've provided those emails for you at the bottom there. And we're always here to help you. Simple questions about claims, please give us a call or email us. Does anyone have any questions? Amanda, did everything seem to be okay there? Was I missing anything? Is there anything we should probably touch base on again?
I don't think so. One thing I wanted to see would you be able to pull up the narratives just so we can just run through those real quick? Everyone knows where to find everything on the narrative.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's using the correct one. Now, just a quick side note, the hub narratives do look different from the rapid rehousing, shelter, and outreach narrative. If you are using the hub narrative, please continue to use the one that you have and that you have been utilizing up to this point.
Amanda, if I may add to that, there's been multiple claims, I would say probably in the last month, that I've had to put on hold and that has delayed payment because agencies are using ESG narratives over the ESG CV narratives. When I have to put a claim on hold for that or for any other reason, I do have to re-review that claim. So when you email me back saying, okay, this has been done, I can't always just go right in and approve it because I have to make sure it was put in the right column. I have to make sure nothing was missed when it got put on the narrative. But all of the ESG CV narratives are labeled as such at the top. If somebody submits one on a regular ESG narrative, I try to attach the blank CV narratives to the email when I send it back saying, I'm going to hold the claim, but an ESG CV narrative is required. They are very similar, but they are also different. So we do need that CV narrative. If it's a CV claim.
Yeah, and just so you know, the two do look very similar, but as the CV recipients know that with ESG CV, we do have the unique activities that are allowable under this program. And so those ESG CV narratives have columns for those unique activities so that you can differentiate those in your claims. Were you able to pull up the narrative, Roxanne?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I do have a question from Sarah Chandler. When it comes to hub claims, can we still bill twice a month or is that no longer allowed? If you do need to utilize that, we are still accepting for hubs. You can submit your claim bi-monthly if you need to. If you're kind of starting to level out a little bit and you don't absolutely need that for your cash flow, we do prefer that you do one claim a month. That helps cut down on the volume of claims that our claims team is having to look through. But yes, if you are still needing that, then we will accept it. But if you're starting to level out, we ask that you just do one monthly claim if possible.
If I can add to that, Sarah or anybody else that would have questions about the hub claims, doing 2 a month is fine, but you still need to keep it within the same month. I've had a couple where they've got one claim from like January 1st to January 21st, and then their next claim is like January 21st to February 15th. We still need to keep it in the same monthly claim, but you can still submit 2 a month if you need to. So you can do like a January 1st through the 15th, and then a January 16th through the 31st.
We had a question about the recording. I am attempting to record this session and I will try to send it out. I will apologize. I know I've been having some technology issues, so I'm hoping that this works. But I will send what we have out afterwards. Jason, if you have multiple invoices or checks for one vendor, do you want them listed individually or can you total it on the narrative?
Megan, which do you prefer?
Here's the thing. When you're putting the information into the narrative, there is a paid or incurred date. When I am reviewing the claims, I am looking for your Lowe's receipt that has a January 1st date that is for $200, if that's what that line item says. I'm not saying you cannot combine them, but if you're combining them, it needs to be all from the same date. So if you're using your, the date that you paid the receipts by credit card, then whatever date you paid that credit card, you need to combine them all together like that. If you're using the date that you physically went into the store and made a purchase, then if it was done on 10 different dates, it needs to be 10 different line items. Because I'm looking for that payment or incurred date that's matching what you're telling me on the narrative.
Also, if you do provide a credit card or a bank statement for proof of payment, you need to make sure that you are highlighting and pointing those charges out. Simply sending us a bank statement with 180 charges on it and we have to go through and try to figure out what's what, it is so time consuming. If you have them highlighted or marked in some way showing, that does save a lot of time, and it ensures that we don't miss a charge and think that there's no proof of payment there. Have you come across that, Megan?
Sorry, I have. And the credit cards are used for different things that you might not be, requesting reimbursement for. So that's why it's just the easier it is for me to identify your proof of payment and your entry on the narrative, the faster I can get to your claim or to approving your claim. If I've got 5 agencies ahead of me that had gone through 200 credit card entries for, that's also delaying me getting to your claim. So whatever, brings attention to the proof of payment easiest is going to have me through the claims faster and have the payment processing faster to you.
Sorry, we do have another question in the chat. Is sales tax an allowable expense for ESG reimbursement?
Sales tax is not an eligible expense. You should be using a tax exempt form when making purchases. That's probably the number one reason I actually hit deny on a claim. I know it's easy to pull that Walmart receipt and excuse me, take that total line item and use that for reimbursement. But that is not something that's an eligible reimbursable expense because you should be using that tax exempt form.
Does anyone have any specific questions around the narrative that Roxanne's pulled up? Does everyone know where they should be entering things under which area, which category?
Please note though, guys, when you are filling out these narratives, when you've got this Excel spreadsheet down at the bottom, it tells you which award each one of those are for. ESCV, ESSOCV, ESRRCV, RRH, and so on and so on. Your admin is the very last tab for ESRR admin. If you have any questions about that, you can always contact us. But it labels it out. It even tells you up at the top what documentation is required for that line item. When I actually created these based on the requirements that Amanda had for us, and by doing it this way, I felt like it made it simple. It put the required documentation up at the top for you. There are columns that show, like, for example, this ESRRCV rapid rehousing financial assistance. Okay. Staff member name for payroll or mileage reimbursement or vendor name. Provide that there. Payment or incurred date. Provide that there. And then break your charges up for whatever the charge may be, a security deposit, utility deposits, so on and so on. And then you put the total. That total will add up for you down at the bottom as well. But please keep in mind on each one of these, when you scroll down, as you see, there are the other line items for you. Financial services, rental assistance. If we look at ESSO CV, okay, we have it right here. You may have to minimize the screen a little bit so you can see all three. Maximize the screen so you can just type in what you want to type in. But all you do is you go through, you fill it out for the award that you're claiming, and you attach this document to the claim. You do not have to print it. You can just simply attach it. It makes it so simple. Just keep in mind that each one of these line items has their own narrative, and it must match identically to what you are claiming. That's something that we've come across, and I hope that doesn't continue, because that was rough. It's not easy to fix all that, especially if it's already been sent through. So, does anyone have any questions about these narratives?
I do want to just point out really quickly, I know one of the things that we've had some confusion on is the difference between admin and case management. You will see a column for case management. If you're claiming that time, make sure you're putting your case management time under the correct column, and you're not putting that under admin. I did have a question about where to find the desk guide. I put a link to the desk guide where you can find that online in the chat. So if you need to know where to go find that, you would be able to click on that link.
And we could probably send that, you could probably send that desk guide out with this claims requirement sheet along with the narratives all at once, couldn't you, Amanda?
Yeah, yes, the narratives are also on that page. So if you feel like if you need to go do that, I will likely see if we can get this requirements page added to that page as well.
Okay. I think this is all I have. Megan, do you have anything you want to add?
I do not. It's to me, you've covered it all. I think at this point in time, this all really should have been review. Nothing new was added on this call. Nothing's really changed. We're just trying to kind of buckle down since, it's coming closer to the end of the funding time. But again, the easier it is for me to see what you're claiming and how you're proving. And as far as late claim submission, anything again after that 60 days. So at this point in time, you have about a week left to claim anything from December without needing approval from Amanda. But excuse me, if you can keep in mind trying to get that approval before you submit the claim, that way I don't have to hold it and delay your payment processing even more. Like I said, I do the review and then I send it to accounting to actually get your payment processed. So there is another step after me before that money hits your bank account. It's not I hit approve and then it just goes. So making sure that you have everything in your claim so that we don't have to hold it and delay it longer is my best suggestion as far as getting funds to you, being able to help more people in the limited time that we have left. But again, this all should have been review. Any questions? Like Roxanne said, it's probably going to be a little bit easier to get a hold of me via email. That way there's also a paper trail between, what we've discussed so that we are not trying to remember what was said on a phone call.
I wanted to add to that we are asking that everyone is caught up with their claims at this time. As you know, we are reaching that 80% threshold next month in March. So we want to try to see where your agency is, how you're doing with your spending, making sure that you're going to be able to utilize these funds before we start looking at reallocations. So please make sure you're caught up. If you are not caught up with your claims, if you're not caught up within those 60 days, please reach out to me as soon as possible so we can work out a plan to make sure that you are. The other thing too, I wanted to point out, they did mention this in the chat, is that we know a lot of you have had staff turnover. So if you're doing that, if you have a new staff member that needs some additional assistance, please reach out as well. We're here to help. We want to make sure to keep you on track, make sure that you're getting all the resources that you need. So we definitely are sympathetic to what you're all facing right now.
Amanda, if I can add to that staff change, if you guys have a staff change, it is probably going to be best that you send an email to the claims inbox letting us know if somebody should be changed as far as who is submitting the claims. If I have any questions, if I have to send an email to Jane Doe about fixing claim number 123456, I use the email that's on file. So if you've got a new employee and they're using the old person's login, they're more than likely not going to get the email unless they're also using the same email address. So you might want to make sure that is done. If you do need to make a change on that, all you really need to do is send an email to the claims inbox letting them know to remove person A and add person B. That way I make sure I'm corresponding with the right person.
I also want to add too, we do have a few new awards that were just awarded at the end of last year and at the beginning of January. So for you that may be just submitting a first claim for this program, if you have any questions, please reach out to Megan. She's happy to help. Or if you have a question I can help with, I'm happy to help as well. I think at this time, if we don't have any additional questions, do you have anything additional, Roxanne or Megan?
I don't at this time.
No, I do not.
There's one more question in the chat. Are you stating there is one more year for ESG? For ESG CV, right now, that program ends in September of 2022. No, so yeah, the spending thresholds are for March 2022. We'll be looking at possible reallocations after that time to finish out in September. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate that. And again, we're here to help. So if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to let us know. We will give you the rest of your time back. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.